You've got clients, you are delivering value, you're working hard, but your income has hit a wall. And no matter how much you hustle, you really feel like 5K months are the ceiling, this glass ceiling, right? You're showing up, you're on all the calls, you're over delivering the results. But when you look at your Stripe account or when you look at your PayPal Dash, wherever your money's coming, it's telling a different story. And it looks a little bit like 5K months on clockwork, okay? And not in the exciting, I've made it kind of way. I'm talking about the kind of plateau that feels like a slow burn of resentment and exhaustion. So you are not new to this. You know what you are doing. So why aren't things moving? This episode is for every OBM and every freelancer who feels like they are doing everything right and not seeing the income growth they are expecting. So if you are stuck at that 5K mark or whatever that arbitrary number is and starting to wonder if this is as good as it gets, I want you to know, my friend, that you are not alone. And more importantly, you're not wrong for wanting more. One of the most frustrating stages of growth in your OBM journey is hitting that income ceiling that won't budge, right? If you've been booked out and still feel like you are barely breathing, this episode is for you. So I want to press the proverbial pause button and get honest, right? This plateau that you are feeling is not just a blip, it's actually a signal. Okay, a signal that I hope you take. Something underneath your business model is no longer working. You've hit the outer limit of that hustle-based growth strategy. And the only way out is through a serious mindset and structure shift in your business. So let's really unpack why this happens and what it actually takes to break that 5K barrier for good. And it might be 3K, it might be 4K. It's just some arbitrary number that you cannot get past, right? 5K months for some of us are like, you might be listening and thinking, or maybe you're watching and thinking, Sarah, 5K months, I would love it if I could make 5K a month. Like, just let me be. But for many of us experienced OBMs, after a few years, they're not exactly a sign that you've made it. They're actually a signal that something deeper needs to shift. When I talk about 5K months, yes, you're booked out, but yes, you're also running on fumes and you probably don't have any team helping you, right? Let's just put it out there. Every client call eats into your own business strategy time, right? You are prioritizing your clients. Your calendar probably looks like a damn jigsaw puzzle of deadlines, of reschedulings, of those quick favors that you do for your clients that take up your entire afternoon. You've got Post-it notes coming at the wahoo, trying to hold up a crumbling back end that you're just not really nurturing. And each new invoice feels more like survival than success. So you really haven't prioritized your business. Newsflash, right? Your client pipeline is probably stale AF and your systems are in a very reactionary state. So if your internal operations feel like an afterthought, it's not just like a burnout, it is burnout, but it's also a business model built on borrowed time. And at some point, the cost of staying stuck becomes greater than the fear of doing things differently. Truth bomb right here, guys. You've outgrown your original business model and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You have probably, come from growing beyond being just a freelancer, so to speak, right? Maybe even past that VA or task tackler kind of mode, but you haven't really fully stepped into your power as a strategic OBM for yourself, right? You're still showing up like a high-level helper, when what really needs to happen is that you really need to be the CEO. So let's dig into the real reason that you're stuck at this income level, because it's not about needing more time. It's certainly not about needing more clients, maybe different ones, but it's really about needing a different approach. And that starts with how you are structuring your selling and how you are positioning your OBM services. So one of the biggest traps that I see is selling time instead of transformation. And you've probably heard this a million times, but you are still billing hourly or maybe even offering vague retainer packages framed around basic admin support. And while that might have felt safe at the beginning and probably, kept you going for a long period of time, strategic clients, premium clients don't want to buy your hours. They want to buy a result. They want to know that working with you is going to solve a specific problem and move the needle in their business. When you lead with time, you invite micromanagement. You cap your income. You get stuck playing the role of helper instead of owning your seat at that damn table, which you deserve, okay? You're there for a reason. Transformation, on the other hand, commands higher prices, it creates more trust, and it gives you as the OBM more leverage. Then there's that retainer fatigue. So many OBMs get locked into low profit contracts that drain our energy. What does it look like? Looks like you're stuck on calls, you're stuck in deliverables, you're stuck in team management. But when you actually look at your margins, your actual margins, they don't justify the stress. You might be spending your entire week managing tasks, coordinating across, Slack or whatever channels you're using. You are fielding last minute requests and still walking away with less than what your work is worth. Here's the bottom line. If your retainer clients are taking up 80% of your time for 20% of your revenue, it's time for a reset. And yes, letting go of a client can feel terrifying, but it can also be the catalyst for finally building your business on your own terms. Now, another issue I see is the lack of premium offer suite. So you haven't restructured how your work actually reflects the value that you provide. And this is where things like strategic incentives come into the fold, VIP days of strategic incentives, consulting offers, what we call it in our OBM school is the breakthrough strategy session, or just higher tier operations that really revolve around leadership. Those packages, those can come into play here as well. Without these leadership type directions, you're always going to be in execution mode and you're never going to end up in this CEO mode that I want for you. And you're going to end up always being that go-to person for all the things that I know felt really good at the beginning, but now you've just grown out of that. Premium offers shift that dynamic because they position you as a strategic partner, and strategic partner being the key thing here. They give you more income for less delivery, and they attract clients who want your brain, my friends, not just your bandwidth. So let's talk about positioning here. You might be doing the work of an OBM, I'm sure you are, but you might still be marketing yourself as a VA or showing up in your sales calls in VA mode, right? Your copy, your offers, your discovery calls, they all scream doer and not necessarily leader. And guess what? That's exactly how potential clients are going to treat you. If you're showing up with language like helping with admin or supporting systems, you are absolutely not communicating your strategic value as an online business manager. If you don't position yourself intentionally, we talk about this a lot, you fall into random positioning. And it's usually at the bottom of the food chain. Am I right? Positioning is everything. It's how you establish authority. It's how you command respect. It's how you filter out those clients who don't see your worth and how you attract clients that do. And then there's the pricing. You might be delivering COO or OBM level results, but you are still charging VA level pricing. Now, this kind of mismatch is exhausting and it's unsustainable. As you're here listening, you're at this point in the episode. Now, every month becomes a grind to sign up more clients or upsell existing ones. You're working hard, but you're not working smarter, and your bank account is reflecting that. So it's really time to stop undercharging for your strategic impact, your experience, your systems thinking, your ability to lead a team and drive results. That is worth way more than what you are probably charging. And that is why you are stuck at that ceiling, why you have hit that level that you cannot overcome. So first, own it, right? And own that you are, there may be things that can change. And then what's the shift that needs to happen now? So you need to stop seeing yourself as just a random service provider and start really seeing yourself as a business leader. Because what got you to those 5K months, right? Being available, over delivering, grinding away at hourly work is not going to get you to 10K months and beyond. You need to start thinking like an OBM CEO. And that means getting clear on your value, owning the outcomes you deliver, and building offers that reflect your strategic role, and protecting your time, yes, like the asset it is. And that's probably one of the hardest ones. When I see our successful OBMs in OBM School break through that 5K ceiling, it's because they are offering fewer, deeper services with clear outcomes. They raise their prices to reflect the transformation they provide and not just the hours that they work. They put boundaries in place, they audit their client roster, and they only work with clients who treat them like strategic partners, right? They lean into systems, they lean into onboarding flows, dashboards, and templates. Their business isn't just a service, it's a well-oiled machine. So let me share with you a story from one of our OBM School students, Natalie. So this is a recent grad who, when she first joined, she was deep in what I call the hustle trap, with all the love and respect in my heart. But 3 retainer clients, all of them needy AF. All of them, for lack, I hate this expression, but nickel and diming her. And not one of them saw her as a leader. They expected instant replies, last minute deliverables, and weekend availability as if she were on their payroll. Now, if this sounds familiar, stick with me. She was constantly reacting and never leading. And her days bled into nights, and weekends were never really off. And even when the money came in, it was always just under 5K a month, like something to the tune of 4,800, which is not too shabby, but it felt like she was working twice as hard for half the return. Now, that kind of pressure doesn't just drain your energy, it slowly chips away at your belief that things can never be different. So have you ever felt like this? And I know with Natalie, what really changed everything for her was her willingness to step back and rebuild from a place of leadership. So inside the accreditation program, she dropped her lowest paying client. It wasn't easy. It was the squeaky wheel client, right? The one who drained her energy the most. And she used that and she reclaimed that new time to completely reposition her services, right? So again, this feels like taking a step back, unfortunately, to take a step forward, but it is. So instead of being that go-to for random tasks, she created a high value retainer built around strategy, a monthly ops review, a leadership dashboard, and a team accountability system. She implemented automations, she set up onboarding flows, and she created a clear scope that reflected her actual zone of genius, working with clinicians. So she was specifically working with clinics, multi-clinician clinics. And so it was easy for her to consider, the CRM that they use and to create a clear scope that actually took into account her zone of genius. And let me pause here because this is where most OBMs start to hesitate. That moment when you feel like you are letting go of something that feels secure, right? It was so hard for Natalie to drop that client because, it was a third of her revenue to make space for something bigger. It's terrifying. It's uncertain, but it's also exactly what growth looks like. It's uncertain, right? You can't create your next level by clinging to what is just barely working. And Natalie, with the support of, fellow OBMs in OBM School, Natalie was able to trust herself enough to make that leap. And she didn't do it alone, right? She had our frameworks, she had a coach, and she had our community behind her, right? And that makes all the difference. Within just 2 months, within 2 months, Natalie signed a new client inside of the accreditation, which is a 6-month program. Within 2 months, she signed a new client, someone who didn't blink at her doubled rates, someone who respected her boundaries and saw her as the strategic partner that Natalie truly is. And her revenue jumped to $8,200 a month, but more importantly, her time and her energy came back. She had the mental white space to innovate, to go into her OBM CEO role in her business, and to get the confidence to lead, and really the clarity to say yes to only the right opportunities. So what can you do right now if you are ready to grow, right? You can redefine your core OBM offer. You can think about what's the real transformation you are delivering. And if that's a confusing thing to you, the best way I like to look at that is think about what your clients do with the newfound time you afford them by taking things off their plate, right? These are the things that only they can do in their business. So if your client now has new time to write a book, create that course, land those new clients, that's the transformation. It's about not selling support, it's about selling outcomes. So start talking about those outcomes. Talk about the results, not the hours. Get your own back-end systems in place. Automate your own business where you can. Standardize your onboarding. Create boundaries that protect your pricing power. Because here's the thing, your OBM business has the potential to create true freedom, but only if you stop treating it like a hustle job. If you're just getting your business started, I'm leaving a whole bunch of resources linked below this YouTube video and in the podcast show notes. So whether you're watching this on YouTube or catching this on the podcast, I got some resources for you over at obmschool.com/resources. And if you are done playing small and you recognize that you've hit the ceiling and you really want to overcome it and you want to be seen and respected and paid like the strategic leader that you are, I would love to invite you to join us inside the OBM School accreditation program. This is our CPD-Certified path to real leadership for experienced OBMs who are ready to get paid like a leader and not a helper. So this is our OBM School certification program. It's that CPD-certified step-by-step training that helps experienced OBMs grow into strategic leadership, sign premium pricing clients, and run businesses that support the life that they actually want. You're going to get the tools, the one-on-one coaching, and the support to make your next level inevitable. So head on over to obmaccreditation.com to learn more. So we love supporting you. Thank you so much for listening to the OBM Show or watching the OBM Show. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave us a review if this episode hit home, and I will catch you in the next one.